Good morning everybody, how are you? It's Emily from Baylily Bell Tents here, wishing you a very good morning on this Thursday sunny day. It's been a really good week for us this week. We've got tents out at Goodwood Revival, and we've got a massive 40th birthday tomorrow, so lots to do, lots of events to go. But today I've got a few hours this morning just to kind of plan through the rest of our week and the next week, because next week is our last event of the season, which we're quite excited about. It's a little bit earlier than usual, but mainly because we're going to have a baby imminently, and we thought it might be a good idea for the first time in 5 years to maybe have some maternity leave, because obviously with Lydia Rose we were up to the line giving birth to her, and Ben was the day before we were in the field, so we thought 2 weeks to have a bit of R&R might be a good idea. But the main reason I've come on today is because amongst all the actual setting up of events this week, we've done quite a few site visits and discussions with some of our potential brides for next year who just wanted some ideas and help with the planning side of their events, because for a lot of people planning weddings, birthdays, big outdoor events isn't something that comes natural to them. They like the end result, but they don't know how to get there. So part of our service is, although we are we're not just a bell tent company, we are event planners, and we have event planning backgrounds between us. We like to be able to offer that extra service where we can come, we can discuss ideas and see how we can help. Obviously last week we had our big wedding in the New Forest, where we had a lot of in-depth discussions about how we can help with the design service of it and the guest management and all of that kind of stuff. So I had a site visit yesterday with a lovely couple that are getting married with us next May, and we have tomorrow's 40th had a lot of input from us as well. So a few things that have come out from the last few discussions we've had are things to consider when you're planning an outdoor event or any kind of event that you may not think about when you're talking to your venue, or when you're discussing it with your friends and family, and you don't want to get to the day before your event before you realise, oh my god, I haven't got X, Y, Z. So I've made a tiny little list. There's only 5 or 6 things just to think about, just in case you are at that stage of your event planning where you mean, oh, thanks Emily, you know, that might have actually helped me today. Number one, and this is more relevant to anyone who's booking bell tents with their events, is make sure you realise the size and space of the things you hire. So a lot of people will book a field or a venue, or you know, like a farm with a field or extra, but don't always realise the size and space of things that they're booking. With our tents are 5 metres, and a 5 metre tent is a 5 metre diameter circle, but also needs a metre either side to create a 7 metre space for each tent. And obviously for health and safety and in line with sort of camping guidelines and stuff, we need to have a decent sized break between your tents, so that in case there's a fire or anything like that, the fire wouldn't jump. So we need to have a decent amount of space per tent on your field. So if you're booking 1 tent, that's fine. If you're booking 20 tents, that's quite a substantial size of your field you already need to think about. As well as that, you might have other guests bring in their own tents who want to come along for the weekend. You've got to think about guidelines, trip hazards, all that kind of stuff, walkways. So really think about, when you're looking at your field, take a tape measure. Always take a tape measure and just mark it out on the ground and see exactly where your space is going to go. With that in mind, think about how you're going to lay out your field or your grass space. Where are your tents going to go? Where's your marquee going to go? More importantly, where are your cars going to go? Now, a few places I've been to in the last few weeks have had their car parking in the field itself. However, obviously, if you're in the UK right now watching this, we've had torrential rain. So in your head, you might think in your head, oh, the cars will go along that hedge line over there, that's absolutely fine. If you've got 20, 30, 40, 50 cars coming onto your site and it's been raining and the mud's been churning up, you're going to get 50 cars stuck in the mud. So think about your access points and think about how your guests are going to get onto the field to park their cars and know at the end of it they can get off without having one person having to tow everyone off. So think about gates, think about hard standings, think about trying to get people up high. If you're on any kind of slope at all, think about maybe making sure your cars are on the top of the slope rather than the bottom, having to come up a hill in the mud, because the last thing you want to be doing after having a massive celebration the day before is getting knee deep in mud, having cars splat up with their wheels as they're turning around, it's just not. Hi Lauren, how are you? So yeah, making sure that you have a real plan for how people are going to get on and off your ground. What's the other thing we've got? Arrival times on your day before. So if you've got a field or it's a family house or a garden, a lot of the times you're quite relaxed on how you can get on and off your event. What's this? Oh, someone's showing my video. That's very nice. Thank you very much. Arrival times of suppliers. Some venues you go to are very strict on what time you can access. For example, some campsites, even though you might have a weekend hire, will still be functioning as a campsite the day before, and therefore need to know exactly when you're getting on so they can make sure that any other sort of Joe Public are getting off. If you've got lorries coming on, if you've got marquee and flatbed lorries coming on and caterers coming on and all this kind of stuff, it can get really complicated. So make sure in the lead up to your event you have a schedule in front of you and you time it. I'll see you a bit later, Lauren, if that's okay. Don't know who you are. So I've lost my train of thread now. Thank you very much. Yeah, making sure you know that your power is coming on. If the marquee's taking up the majority of the space, making sure that they've got enough time and space for their vehicles to come on, because you don't want 5 vehicles from them coming on, Baylily Bell Tents coming on with 2 vehicles, the caterers coming on with 1. It can get really complicated. So get a schedule down, find out in advance, good few weeks in advance if possible, because especially if you're going to a specific venue, it really helps them with their planning so they know about vehicle control, if there are other people on the site, obviously their risk assessments need to be in place, all that, and ask for risk assessments, because if you've got that many vehicles on site as well, it can get a bit complicated, and we need to make sure everyone's on the same page with their health and safety. Oh, that's an important one. So power, have you thought about power? Are you getting a generator? Are you going to be using the power from the venue? Is it a main supply? Where are you getting your power from? And more importantly, how much power are you going to use? Because it's not endless, and if you think you're going to daisy chain 10 different extension leads across a field, you might find that by halfway through your event, you're going to end up blowing up all the fuses and you have no power at all. And if it's middle of sort of, by this time, by about 7:30, 8 o'clock, it's getting dark, you don't want to be lightless. So make sure you work out if you're getting a band in, if you're getting hair dryers in for your sort of pamper tents and things like that. If you have lighting issues, make sure you know what the draw is on all of your power and ask your power supply to make sure that they give you a big enough generator to cope with the amount. Likewise, if you're only going to use a little bit, don't go and spend £500–600 on a massive generator if you only need a little bit for a couple of uplighters. Lighting. This was one that came up yesterday actually. So we're on site at Fairthorne, and it's a beautiful site. It's a campsite, and they have they're having a marquee and they've got a big fire pit, and it's a beautiful site. But the bride at the time was thinking just having fairy lights, and fairy lights are beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and they do have that really nice sort of magical effect on them. However, if by 8–9 o'clock you're still partying, you might find that you need that extra bit of light to help you, just guide paths and stuff. So think about how you're going to do that. The simplest thing is, if you're getting a marquee, I would always recommend getting uplighters. Uplighters give a really nice soft focus light. You can turn them down, they're not too impacting on you. If you're in a marquee and you don't want the light down on you like a chandelier would, go for the uplighters, because you can put gels on them, you can make them different colours, you can put them outside on walkways, you can get your marquee supply or your power supply to bring them out further into the outside area, and it's a really nice way of getting a nice soft glow without having to have too much of like a Blackpool illuminations going on. They're not expensive, and to be honest, as I was saying to our bride yesterday, if you're going to spend any money on any of your wedding or your event, get the lighting right, because you really don't want to be sat in the dark. What else? Decorations of your event. Now, I love Pinterest as much as the next person does. I absolutely love Pinterest, but try to think about what you want and how your vision of your day is. Please don't spew a Pinterest board on your day, because sometimes it can get a bit confusing with how your vision is going to look. So if you're looking at Pinterest, fantastic, and I think you can get some really good inspiration from that. But If you're going to go with rustic and Hessian, fantastic. If you're going to go with colour pops and balloons and bunting and everything else, pick a few key ones and stick with them, because really your guests will never know what's there and what's not there at the end of the day, because they're coming to celebrate with you, and they want to celebrate your event, your couple, as a couple, your love, whatever. They don't care what your sprinkles on your table, you know, your confetti is, what shape is it, stars or is it moons? They don't care. They don't care if you've got lilies or you've got sunflowers in your flowers. They don't care, but just choose something and stick with it. So for example, yesterday we had a discussion about how to decorate the marquee and the ceiling. There are about 4 different options we could have gone with. Choose 1 or 2, because you don't need to have bunting and lanterns and fairy lights and this and that. You don't, because honestly it will look overkill, and sometimes simple is the key, and it can look absolutely stunning. Lauren, I can't read at the same time, mate. I'm really sorry. I'll read any comments at the end and I'll answer privately if that's okay, because my eyesight's not so good and I can't read the screen and talk at the same time. I am a bit thick, sorry. What else have we got? Yeah, and basically have a really good time and think about the next day. And you don't want to be waking up and having to take down everything straight away. So get your just like before with your arrival times, make sure that you secure your takedown times well in advance, so you know that you're not rushing around or being surprised by any suppliers who might turn up at 9 o'clock the next morning, because that's really not fun or anything like that. So apart from that, make sure you get your schedule in place, plan who's coming onto site, make sure. Thank you, Swear. I thought so. I was just going to try and ignore, but it's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah, get your arrival times in place. Make sure you've got adequate lighting, adequate power. Discuss with your venue what you can and can't do, because sometimes, oh, that's another one. Sometimes people put things in their plan that venues won't allow. For example, like yesterday, Fairthorne, great site, they don't allow hay bales. Because of dust and mites and things that blow across the wind. So if you've gone and spent a lot of money on hiring hay bales and your venue doesn't allow it, you're going to be up the creek really. So discuss with the venue what you can and can't do before you get there, because you don't want anything that's too, you know, off the wall and you're wasting your money. It's an expensive time anyway. You don't waste your money on things you can't have. And that's it really. Please feel free, if you've got any questions about things that you're not sure about or you've not thought about as well, give me a shout, because I'm always happy to help and discuss some things. And for me today, I'm going to, well, discuss our franchise with a few more people actually. So we've got 2 more weeks of events, like I said at the beginning of this video. 2 more weeks of events, then we're having a 2-week break, maybe to have a baby, maybe not to have a baby. Knowing me, it'll probably be another month, because that's what we do with our babies. And then we're getting straight into our franchise training for the winter. That's a busy winter, so we are, as if you haven't followed our page before, we are spreading across the country this year. We're going national, and we have some really interested people who want to come and take on board the Baylily Bell Tents brand. We're really excited by that. Haven't got much time, so we need to sort of crack on with our training plan. But for the rest of you, have an amazing day, whatever you're choosing to do. If you're going to Goodwood, I'm very jealous. I'm really jealous for our guys setting up today, because I was there last year and it looked amazing, absolutely amazing. Let us know what you're doing, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day, guys. Bye. Bye.